They all stared at me like I'd just descended from a UFO. My dad, my brothers, the whole peanut gallery of relatives who'd never lifted a finger in their lives. Mouths hanging open, coffee mugs frozen mid-sip, as if the earth had just stopped spinning. And maybe it had, for them. Because what I'd just told them in 10 little words detonated like a tactical nuke in the middle of our toxic little family drama. 10 words. That's all it took. And then I turned, walked out, and never looked back. But you want to know how we got here, right? Sure. Let's rewind this circus. Years ago, back when I was still naive enough to believe in family loyalty, I was the one who stepped up. My dad was supposedly this pillar of the community, except the pillar was cracked, leaning, and smelled faintly of cheap whiskey. My brothers? They had the work ethic of houseplants. Meanwhile, I was pulling double shifts, paying bills that weren't mine, and shoving my own dreams into a dark, dusty box labeled "Maybe Someday." I became the unpaid intern of my own family, except instead of a job recommendation, I got gray hairs and migraines. Now don't get me wrong, there was a kind of twisted, toxic love in it. The American sitcom kind, where you keep hoping that if you sacrifice enough, they'll finally say, "Thanks, kid, you saved us." Instead, I got betrayal with a side of public humiliation. See, one fine afternoon, and by fine I mean humid, sweaty, and destined to ruin my life, my dad invited me to what he called a family gathering. Picture a BBQ straight out of a bad reality TV show. Folding chairs, overcooked burgers, and that one uncle who thinks wearing socks with sandals is a personality trait. I thought it would be harmless. I was wrong. Halfway through, Dad decided it was story time, except instead of telling the one about the time I won a spelling bee or saved a dog from drowning, he launched into this bizarre, half-invented saga about me being ungrateful and difficult. He made me sound like some unhinged diva who lived off his generosity, while my brothers sat there nodding like background actors in a propaganda video. I swear he must have been auditioning for a roast special on Netflix. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because the betrayal was so absurd it felt scripted. I mean, here I was, the human ATM who'd kept his lights on for years, and he was painting me as the villain in front of people who'd believe anything if it came with free potato salad. That's when I knew. Revenge wasn't just an option. It was the plot twist. But not the petty kind, like spiking the punch with hot sauce. No. I was going for the long game, the Cold War kind of revenge, where you vanish so completely, they start wondering if you were a figment of their imagination. I went home, packed my things, and slipped out like a spy defecting to the other side. No notes, no calls, no forwarding address. Just gone. My brothers probably thought I was bluffing. My dad probably figured I'd crawl back, because toxic love thrives on the fantasy that you'll always be there to absorb the blows. But weeks turned into months, and the reality set in. I wasn't coming back. Life on the outside? Oh, it was sweet. I got a real apartment that didn't smell like regret. I bought furniture that I liked, not whatever came free from my dad's buddy down at the junkyard. I started investing in myself, literally and metaphorically. No more guilt-driven payments. No more, "Can you cover the mortgage just this once?" texts. I was free, and while I was living my best life, the old house of cards started collapsing. Turns out, my brothers weren't exactly the responsible adults my dad had always claimed they'd become. Bills went unpaid, repairs piled up, and the family BBQs got downgraded from burgers to instant ramen. I heard all this through the grapevine, of course. You think I was picking up their calls? Please. Then, one rainy Tuesday, they showed up. I don't know how they found me. Maybe one of them finally learned how to use Google. They stood there, soggy and awkward, asking me to come home and help Dad out. As if we'd all just had a little tiff and could patch it up over sweet tea. I let them talk. I even smiled a little, because in that moment, I realized the balance of power had shifted completely. They needed me now. The ATM was closed, the scapegoat was gone, and they were standing in the rubble of their own making. And that's when I dropped the line. 10 words. Simple. Surgical. The kind of phrase that doesn't need to be shouted, because it carries the weight of every sleepless night, every missed opportunity, every roast at a family BBQ. I said it. They froze. I walked away. And just like that, my revenge was complete. If I could go back in time and warn myself about that day, I wouldn't say, "Don't go to the BBQ." No, I'd say, "Wear sunglasses so you can hide your rage when the betrayal hits." Because that's the thing about betrayal in an American family. It's never private. It's always served hot and steaming in front of a crowd, like some twisted Thanksgiving turkey. The family gathering was supposed to be harmless. Dad called it a celebration of togetherness, which was my first red flag. This man doesn't celebrate anything unless it's his own birthday, tax refunds, or the Cowboys winning. But like an idiot who hadn't yet earned my degree in toxic family studies, I showed up. Now picture this. A sprawling backyard straight out of a Home Depot ad, except instead of happy golden retrievers and smiling neighbors, you've got folding lawn chairs from the 90s, a grill that looked like it had fought in 2 wars, and my Uncle Ray in a tank top that said, "Beer is my spirit animal." I knew right away. This was going to be one of those days. Dad was in his element. You'd think he was running for office with the way he worked the crowd. Handshakes, back pats, fake chuckles that sounded like a cough from a haunted house. And then, as if on cue, he called for attention. Now most dads at this point might say something like, "Let's all thank insert name for helping me these past years." Not mine. Oh no. My dad decided this was the perfect moment to publicly rewrite history like some budget documentary on a conspiracy channel. "Folks," he started, holding up his beer like it was a presidential proclamation. "You all know my kids, good boys, hard workers, always there for their old man." I almost choked on my lukewarm soda. Good boys? My brothers hadn't lifted a couch cushion in years, let alone a finger to help him. But the crowd nodded, because of course they did. Then he went in for the kill. Now I try to raise them right, but you know, some people, they just don't appreciate what you do for them. And he looked right at me. Not a subtle glance, not even a sly smirk. Full eye contact, like a sniper lining up a shot. The man then launched into a 15-minute monologue about my so-called selfishness. He told the crowd how I refused to help with certain bills. Translation: I had the audacity to pay my own rent instead of covering his 3rd new TV in 2 years. He painted this picture of me as a high-maintenance, spoiled brat who lived in some fantasy world where I didn't owe him eternal servitude. And my brothers? They sat there, nodding along like 2 bobbleheads you get free with a gas station purchase. I swear, I could feel my blood pressure forming a lawsuit against me. Every sentence he said was like watching a true crime reenactment of my life. Except in this version, I was the criminal, and he was the saint. People laughed. They actually laughed. That's the thing about toxic love. Outsiders see it as quirky family banter. They don't see the years of sacrifice, the way you've quietly emptied your bank account while smiling through clenched teeth. They don't hear the midnight phone calls asking for just a little help that somehow turn into monthly auto payments. At that moment, something in me broke, but in a good way, like a prison door swinging open. I realized I wasn't in a loving family. I was in a cult, and the Kool-Aid was flavored with guilt and passive aggression. And I wasn't going to drink it anymore. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. That's the beauty of true revenge. You don't need to yell when you're all planning the escape. I just smiled. That kind of calm, slightly creepy smile that says, you have no idea what's coming next. When the speeches were over, I did the polite thing. Hugged a couple relatives. Thanked Aunt Linda for the potato salad that tasted like it had been in witness protection. Then I went home, opened my laptop, and started making moves. Quiet ones. Strategic ones. Because revenge isn't loud. It's patient. Within a week, I'd moved my money to a new account he didn't know about, canceled every bill that had my name attached to his address, and started scouting apartments 2 zip codes away. My phone became a fortress. No more late-night guilt calls, no more emergency texts. It wasn't running away. It was disappearing on purpose. The kind of disappearing that makes people second-guess if you were ever real to begin with. And the more I thought about it, the funnier it got. The guy who'd spent years playing the noble victim at my expense was about to find out what real betrayal feels like. Because here's the twist. I wasn't just walking out. I was taking the one thing he didn't think I could take, my loyalty. And once that's gone, all the money in the world won't buy it back. Here's the thing they don't tell you about walking away from a toxic family. The first week feels like a vacation. The first month feels like therapy. And after 6 months, you start to wonder why you didn't do it the second you learned how to drive. When I vanished, I didn't just change my address. I changed my whole operating system. I got a new apartment in a neighborhood where no one knew my last name, my favorite coffee shop order, or my history of unpaid emotional labor. I bought a bed frame, a real one. Not the hand-me-down metal thing that squeaked like a dying bird every time you moved. I stocked my fridge with food I actually liked. No more bologna and mustard because Dad's on a budget. And slowly, my shoulders stopped living up around my ears. My phone stayed blissfully silent. No "can you spot me until payday" texts. No guilt-laden voicemails. No surprise visits from my brothers to borrow things that mysteriously never made their way back. Meanwhile, oh, this is my favorite part. Back at the old homestead, the empire was crumbling. Without my monthly contributions, Dad's bills piled up faster than junk mail. The big screen TV he just had to have? Pawned. His beloved riding mower? Sold to a neighbor for half its value. My brothers? Turns out their jobs were more like very committed hobbies, and without me plugging the financial leaks, they were suddenly drowning. I didn't hear this from them, of course. I heard it from distant relatives, old family friends, even the cashier at the gas station when I was back in town one weekend. "Your dad's been having a rough time," they'd say, like I was supposed to clutch my pearls and rush back into the fire. I'd nod sympathetically, sip my coffee, and say, "Oh, really?" while screaming, "Yes, karma," in my head. Then, one rainy Tuesday, because in my life, drama insists on perfect cinematic timing, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Dad and my 2 brothers standing there, dripping wet, looking like the saddest trio of golden retriever puppies that just got caught in a hurricane. "Hey, kid," Dad started, his voice suddenly soft, almost humble. If I hadn't known him better, I might have believed it. "We've been talking, and, well, things haven't been easy." We could use your help. I just stood there. Let them squirm. You could feel the discomfort crawling up their spines. My brothers kept looking at each other, silently daring the other one to jump in with a heartfelt pitch. Finally, brother number one cleared his throat. We were thinking, maybe you could come home for a bit? Help Dad get back on his feet? Now, old me, the me from before the BBQ roast, before the vanishing act, might have caved, might have heard the word family and thought it meant something sacred. But the new me had spent months detoxing from the cult of toxic love. I was immune to the guilt trip. I let them talk. Every excuse, every half apology, every attempt to rewrite history into something less grotesque. We were all stressed. It came out wrong. You know your dad loves you. And here's the truth. Maybe he does in his own warped, self-serving way. But love without respect is just another form of control. And I was done being controlled. When they finally ran out of words, I smiled. Not a big grin, just a small, steady smile that said, I win. Then I dropped it. The line I'd been saving since the day of the barbecue. 10 words, clean and sharp, like a scalpel. You made your bed, now lie in it, alone. The silence that followed could have been bottled and sold as instant regret. Dad's face went pale. My brothers shifted uncomfortably, like they suddenly realized they were standing in the blast radius of their own bad decisions. I didn't slam the door. Slamming would have been too dramatic. I just closed it slowly, leaving them on the porch with the rain pouring down, looking like 3 extras in a sad country music video. And that was it. No fireworks, no dramatic chase scene, no last-minute reconciliation. Just the quiet, satisfying click of a door shutting on years of betrayal. People always ask me if I regret it, if I ever think about forgiving and forgetting. Here's my answer. You can forgive without giving someone access to hurt you again. And you can forget, well, you can pretend to forget while replaying your revenge moment like a highlight reel every time you need a little serotonin boost. So, yeah, I walked away, and I stayed away. Because sometimes, the best kind of revenge isn't about destroying them. It's about refusing to let them destroy you.